In Chapter 10 here, we're going to look at something called analysis of variance. So the key questions here are, how do we design a sampling experiment? And then how do we compare more than two populations? So for example, more than two population means, or more than two population proportions. In this chapter, we'll consider means. So let's first talk about what this designed experiment is. In the experiment, you will have a response variable, which is the measured variable. You're measuring that in the experiment. That's your dependent variable, or if you want, your y variable. And then the factors are the variables whose effect on the response variable is of interest to the experimenter. So those are your independent or your x variables. So factors are x variables. You can have quantitative factors, which are naturally numerical or measured. You can have qualitative factors, which are not naturally numerical. So these would be categories. And then factor levels are the values of the factors. So these are independent variable values. And then treatments are defined to be factor level combinations. So this is variable value combinations. And then the experimental units are the objects on which the response and the factors are observed or measured. Many times your experimental units are people. So let's look at an example here. So researchers investigating what variables affect cholesterol levels. So the response variable, that's your y variable. Well, cholesterol levels are going to depend on the independent variables. So cholesterol is responding to independent variables. So that is your response variable. So cholesterol levels. And then the factors that might affect cholesterol here might be diet. And that would be a qualitative variable. So for example, high fat diet, low fat diet, high carb, low carb, etc. Also weight. And that is a quantitative variable. It's measured. Age. Cholesterol values tend to be lower when you're younger and higher when you're older. That's also a quantitative. And then perhaps the amount of exercise. And this could be quantitative or qualitative depending on how you measure that. So you could have a high exercise, a low exercise, or you could have minutes of exercise per week. So the type there could be qualitative or quantitative. And this is by no means exhaustive. Lots of factors or lots of independent variables that would affect cholesterol levels. Medication would be another one. Here's another example. Researchers interested in the effect of family income and gender on level of education. We've got high school, associate, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate level education here. So our response variable, the one that responds, is going to be your education level. And then the factors, the independent factors that we're interested in, are family income and gender. And then the treatments. So the treatments are the factor level combinations, variable value combinations. So for example, for gender, you could have male. That's one combination. Or gender female. Be another treatment. And then income, for example, we could say family income, $100,000. And probably would categorize income maybe in $10,000 increments. And then the experimental units are going to be the people in the study. So we're measuring these variables, male, gender, and family income, on groups of people.